That's a lot of notes.
Are we going to kick off then?
Alright, yeah.
Who's going to start this thing?
I'll start it.
Are we recording?
We're recording. Okay. Hello everybody, and welcome to the OKKO Anime Club panel.
Yeah! We're a year old today, all of us collectively. This is our first birthday.
Our first birthday today.
What is OKKO Anime Club, Ebby?
So
Please
OKKO
tell
Anime
us.
Club is this thing where at least me, Alan and Cam get together once a fortnight or something like that to just watch an anime, and then we talk about it on a live stream, and we like to get everyone involved as much as possible. So what we're going to do for this panel is we're going to be talking about Patema Inverted. So if you haven't seen the film, I highly suggest leaving because we're going to spoil it really bad. But yeah.
Probably like introduce ourselves. Even though I think everyone in this room knows who we are or have been to a previous panel, we'll do it anyway.
Yeah, we'll do it like we
for
usually
posterity's sake.
Introduce yourself for the sake of the video.
Yeah. So we'll start with Cam.
Hello, I'm Cam. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room knows me.
Can you spell that?
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Cam.
That's not how you spell it.
Don't ask me hard questions. I'm over. Like how to spell my own name. I'm known as Tensei Twister on YouTube, and I do figure reviews, and I like anime because that's why I do it.
Hey.
You in the silly hat.
My name is Tired.
Tired shift.
Also Alan, also back shift. I make anime reviews on YouTube. And that's about it. No.
Okay.
Come on, man, get hype. Let's go. Come on.
I'll wake up as we talk more.
Okay. I'm Ebby, otherwise known as Design5 on YouTube. I do anime reviews and other such content, and I made up this idea of OKKO Anime Club.
You did.
You are
the progenitor.
So it's your fault.
Yep, it's my
I had to
fault.
watch JoJo's.
Yep, you had to watch JoJo's because of me.
I'm pretty sure it was a collective thing, wasn't it?
Yep.
We were just like, we all really want to watch JoJo's.
So,
Kim Ross hated it.
we've got a couple of guests with us today, because I just dragged Andy into it, because I thought that'd be funny. So introduce yourself, Andy.
I'm Andy. I do some stuff on YouTube as well, mainly gaming stuff. I've also got a really tiny anime channel as well, which is
What's the URL for that?
youtube.com/user/AZY103 new names. But it's really small. It's called the Anime Corner. I've done a couple of figure reviews and some anime stuff, but that's about it.
Pat.
Oh, I'm Pat, and ditto to everything everyone else said. And I'm animating on YouTube. I make videos.
And it's from Australia.
I'm from Australia.
It came all the way from Australia.
Just for this.
Just for AmeChibi. What a tragic
Miss out on
waste.
the birthday.
No, this con's been really good.
I've been on a previous one too. I watched that one. That one's great.
Which
Well,
one's
God only knows.
I didn't watch that.
What?
What?
Oh my god. All you do on Plug DJ is play that one song that God only knows.
I just
I
missed
swear,
I just
you
missed
wait.
it.
You wait until we announce an anime, and then you go, "Am I gonna hate this one? Yes, I'll watch it."
Yep.
Am I gonna like
I
this
watched
one?
the
Oh,
show.
then.
I didn't watch the club. That's what I mean.
Okay.
'Cause
No, we're alright, thank you.
we're using
Alright.
circles.
We're using circle tech.
And we also have a guest audience.
Yeah, guest audience.
Yeah,
guest
Everyone
audience.
introduce yourselves. Say your names or...
At once. 1 and 2.
I'm John. Hello.
It's not at once. Hi, John.
Can I plug?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm Joel. I'm from Geek Out Southwest, small-time geek blog.
I want to say
Getting
Southwest.
Geek Out Southwest, yeah. Even though I'm from the Midlands.
Ooh, Midlands.
Yeah, Shrewsbury.
Oh, look, it's Ed.
Hey!
Come and join the
You're
circle,
inside.
Ed.
Come in the circle. You dingus.
Why not?
The audience just increased by 20%.
That's the camera. Is the camera right there?
He's right in front of Abby.
Sit next to the cameras.
I don't bite.
Sometimes.
No, I honestly don't.
There we go.
Don't believe him.
I
So,
bite Pat.
right.
Where-
Sarah,
Joel.
Joel, Amy, I know Amy. What's your name?
Another Ed.
Another Ed. Oh my gosh.
Ed Square.
Ed Central.
I'm gonna make the
One of
two
you's
Eds
got to be double D. That's not what I meant.
There's one more person.
Dan.
Dan, is Dan tired too?
So everyone's going to be napping in this. So we're going to talk about Patema Inverted, and what we like to do to start things off is just give our general opinions of whether we liked it or not before we get more into big old discussions. So since I'm hosting, I get to choose who I pick on first, and I'm going to pick on Alan.
Yeah. You get to talk more.
Okay, so when I first heard about this thing, I was really kind of intrigued with it, just because the idea of reversed gravity on a character was something that I thought had like limitless possibilities, something that I for a while wanted to see in fiction. I thought it could be like a superpower of someone, like an index or whatever, where like their power is to reverse someone's gravity, just touch someone and they fly into the sky or whatever. But this is definitely a far less kind of superhero take on that idea. And aside from knowing that there's upside down stuff in it and that there's a sick in joke on every box art for the things on the back of the box to be upside down, I wasn't sure what to get out of it. And in the end, I was really damn impressed. For the first half of the film, it's just kind of introducing the whole premise and everything, and actually did a really damn good job of kind of presenting why everything is like this without it seeming stupid. And halfway through the film, everything just goes like buck wild and mental. It's just like, yeah, this is brilliant. And I don't want to go into specifics, but I did really enjoy it.
Hello. Yeah, I really, really like this film. It was badass. I'm not really a big anime films person, I suppose. I don't watch films very often. So I kind of went into this not really expecting anything. I wasn't sure what was going on. I read the plot synopsis and it seemed fairly interesting. And it was really, really, really good. Really good. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. And the concept was just wacky, which people were upside down. Going on to like your idea of having someone that could just reverse people's gravity, you could make that the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You could proper ham up the horror on that one.
Exactly.
Whoa! There's actually someone that actually does that in One Piece. Just touch them and whoop.
There you go, Alan, you need to watch One Piece.
I do.
There you go, 700 episodes.
Yeah,
Watch it with me forever.
I'll see you in 6 months.
I really liked this film. I again wasn't really expecting too much from it. I don't know why, because everyone really, really speaks quite highly about this thing. But for some reason it was one of those things that I bought the DVD of, never watched it. Thought, oh, it's showing at AmeChibi, we could do a panel for that. And I was really surprised by just how much I enjoyed it and how funny it was. I think like how funny it was surprised me, because it seems like a very serious thing when you could fall into the sky, and then they have these like little moments that are really, really funny in it. Really
That bit in the shack.
Yeah.
With the music just playing cuts out. I'm hungry. Don't forget me.
It was so just like brilliantly janky and harsh compared to everything else, which just made the timing of it so perfect.
Bring me back a sandwich. And then the bit with the sandwich. The emoji just drops it. It's like wow.
So yeah, it was good. Andy, let's pick on you.
Yeah, I have to say I didn't really know anything about it beforehand. I had to ask Abby about 5 or 6 times what it was called because I kept forgetting. And I just sort of turned up, not really expecting much for it, to be honest. But I was really impressed with it actually, and I really enjoyed it. And again, yeah,
It was
some
in
nice
tears.
comic relief in it. Some tears.
And he was like, oh, it was so good.
It was a roller coaster of emotions.
And although there was one part halfway through I thought it ended, and I was just like, oh, that.
What, when they like fell into the sky?
You mean the bit 5 minutes in when she's climbing up the fence and falls?
I think you mean down
But yeah, overall.
No, I think you mean up first.
Pat?
Oh, I loved it. It was great. It's been ages since I've seen an anime film which wasn't Ghibli or 12 episodes shunted into one thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really cool. I like every like sort of scene where they switched over. Also, just general backgrounds. They looked amazing.
Yeah, they did look really good.
I'm really glad that they got a release for this.
Oh,
Which was
definitely.
kickstarted, funnily enough.
The world of anime is much better off with this film existing.
And I hope they do it for more films. Or we get to see some more from this director, because I reckon he's on
Yeah,
to
who
his
directed
thing.
it? Do we know?
It's Yoshiura, the guy who directed Time of Eve. Everyone's seen
haven't
that.
seen Tammany.
There's a lot of parallels between the two that's quite easily pick up. Because Time of Eve is basically about this cafe where robots who are sort of malfunctioning to have emotions, because it's in like a future time where people use robots like all tools and things, and then like robots go to this cafe that actually sort of have emotions that are growing out of control, and people just go to spend time with the robots, and it's kind of the classic kind of moral thing of like, oh, can you fall in love with a machine and everything? And
Smith is a cop and he's going to stop the uprising.
Yep. And the parallels drawn between that and this is that this has a lot of the classic kind of like proto-racism of like, no, this isn't a human, you people can't be together because you're different. And there's a lot of sort of stylistic themes, and also just within the setting at the start of the film where you see the odd-world populace and how everything just seems so mechanical, and they're human beings but they're just kind of living on rails. And there's kind of, it had a very similar tone to Time of Eve at the start.
So does anyone have like any different opinions other than it was really good, I liked it?
I think my favourite character in the whole thing was the villain. Because he was shoot him. You're just
I'm gonna draw out my gun and pass it to you.
so one-dimensional, so straightforward. You know, it's you're an evil sinner and you all should be purged, but stay with me and I'll protect you.
Yeah.
Did anyone
And
notice
then-
that he was actually James Bond because he had a golden gun?
He reminded me of Frollo from Hunchback of Notre
Yeah.
Dame, because
Yeah.
he was like,
Yeah.
"You all suck, but I want you to love me."
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh,
That's what he reminded me of,
Yeah.
because Frollo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame was
exactly the
just
same way.
purely evil, but would be like, oh, I'll totally do you this favor if you do this thing for me.
If you totally become my like sex slave,
Yeah.
it's like,
It would have been
I
awesome
won't
if
kill
there
you
was
if
like
you
a
let me
Hellfire
sleep with you a
section.
lot. That's basically Frollo.
Hey Matt,
Well,
I'm enjoying the circle. So yeah,
so yeah, basically everyone likes this.
I like
Yeah.
the idea that
Worldwide appeal.
the power of love and doing a nice hug can make you fly.
A nice suggestive hug.
While you're down there, look.
While
Or
you're
up
down
there, I don't know.
Should we dial it back to just the general setting, and when we sort of get presented with everything, and the massive contrast between Patema's world beneath, like this very sort of homely, close feeling, and then up to the top where it's just like, couldn't be any less personal.
I thought it was like a really kind of neat contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, I don't know, I feel like Patema's people sort of lived a little bit in poverty because they were like, oh man, we've got seeds, we can grow
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah.
And then they go up to the surface where they've got pretty much anything they could ever need, but they're all miserable.
Except for
I-
life, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was like a really interesting sort of thing that I
I love the little like suits that they had to go exploring in.
Yeah.
Although whenever
Mask
Pam
is
was in
useless.
the danger zone,
Danger
it's like
zone!
danger zone, and it's just like this place is really dangerous. I'm gonna take this mask off.
So what was the mask for?
They
Gas.
have
To protect you from
specs on it
gravity.
at some point.
It's just great how first time she goes to the danger zone, it's like, oh shit, it's Batman. It's a human bat.
I assume it was like meant for them because that was like the danger zone. So I've seen that's like because they didn't want them to go there. They were like wearing all this protective gear. So there's something wrong with that zone, so don't go there and wear all this gear. That's the only thing I can think.
I just like how they had like L wire on it. It was awesome.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, where when they go up into the toxic jungle, they have to wear that like mask, and then sometimes she doesn't wear it. She's just like, I'm in this bubble. 5 minutes without this mask. Yeah, it'd kill me. It's like,
That's because within 5 minutes into the show, they're like, well, this girl is really cute, so we can't have her wearing a mask.
yeah. Okay. Maybe that was the reveal, like, oh, it's a pretty girl, like in
Yeah.
every other anime.
That's why. Yeah, that's essentially why
Yeah.
they did it, so they could do the reveal. It's Patema.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
but-
gonna love her for the whole movie.
She was freaking adorable.
I feel like
Yeah.
everyone knew that was Patema because
Yeah.
she's on the box, you know.
Yeah.
If you
She's
look at
not
the box,
talking.
it's like, oh, that's Patema.
I just
actually
find it
thought
quite funny
Patema
how
was
all of the
the world.
Hmm?
I didn't think Patema was a character. Like before watching it, I thought Patema was the world
Oh,
itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
like what they call
Yeah.
it. Oh, yeah, I
Potentially.
suppose.
That's why they've got to retell that Patema was actually not inverted.
That's totally man, AG inverted. I did find it quite funny how the security cards were just Batman.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's the bat.
Unleash the Batman!
To be honest, they were basically called Batman. They were just freaking look like Death Gun.
I did like how the contrast between the two communities both lived in fear, essentially. Because we had the
Yeah.
ones which were all very much, like, they lived underground and they didn't want to go out into the danger zone. And then we had above ground, where if you step out of the rules, you lost points, and that could contribute to how you're treated in the future.
Yeah,
Messed up,
yeah.
right?
how they were- how-
Consider and fall into the sky.
I looked out the window.
I did.
No breakfast.
That was one of the things I liked. It was like, even though the worlds were so vastly different, the one thing they had in common was like, yeah,
Was
they both have
obsessive.
like obsessive, yeah, like you're like, these are the rules, you can't break them. It's for your own good.
Even though Patema was like, see you later.
Yeah.
Screw the rules, I'm gonna fall into the sky.
Yeah.
God, what was I going to say? The one thing that I did like is when AG first got like accosted by the police after Patema got captured,
Yeah.
and then that like card came up, and it was like, oh, you've been accosted by the security guards. That's minus 10 points.
You made the security guard have to fire a net. Do you have any idea how
does that mean,
humiliating
though?
that was?
Like when they say, oh, that's minus 3 points, what the hell does that
I
mean?
think you need
Like,
a certain number of points because he's there to be a citizen.
Become
I
a
think they
citizen.
have to have
Yeah,
a
that
certain
was
number
it.
of
So less
points
of
to
a school,
pass.
more of a brainwash.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
okay.
what exactly does citizenship get you?
Not kill.
More of the same.
Sweet flat.
Less
Oh,
accidents.
man.
It's probably
That's
it's probably one of those things where they assess who you are as a citizen, and then they like put you into a job,
Yeah.
and then they're like, this is your job for the rest of your
From
life.
the bit where the
Lamborghini.
businessmen were on one side and all the like actual workers were on the other side.
How many
Yeah.
points do you
Yeah.
need to get that golden gun?
Yeah.
A lot.
All
I
of
don't know,
them.
like, you lose so many points they don't let you walk on the cool little treadmill.
You need a high
gotta walk on
score.
the-
AG's just like there huffing and puffing at the side.
You get your umbrella taken away.
Yeah.
The invisible umbrella.
I did like that moment at the end of the film where they see his dad's like airship
Yeah.
thing coming down and
Yeah.
everyone starts looking to the side.
Yeah.
They start
That was
stepping
really
off it
cool.
as well.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was my
That machine was badass.
And they all
Yeah.
looked up, which they weren't allowed to do, so all demerits for them.
yeah.
Yeah, especially those guys.
No one's getting breakfast today.
Yeah, but then all the teachers ended up looking up as well, so it's like everyone gets demerits.
The
they
teacher
actually?
was the first
I
one
thought
to
they
notice,
were
go,
like-
what's that?
The teachers were like, don't look up, but then they started looking up as well. Like as
Yeah.
soon as the guards
Imagining
appeared.
that all of the secret police are going, we can't look up, how are we supposed to aim?
That's
They've
what
got-
those
they've got the
special
main bad
masks
guys
for.
there.
They just like black out the top part of their eyes.
Yeah, but they've got like mirrors in the bottom so that they can
Yeah.
look up while
Yeah.
staring at the floor.
Bifocals.
It's like horse blinders, just like.
That's probably why they were so rubbish at aiming.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, another thing I found really interesting straight from the get-go is, so we start off underground with Patema's people, and just the general kind of surroundings and the background area, it's all this kind of like really rustic materials and everything like that felt really kind of worn and aged.
Felt like
And-
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, very much post-apocalyptic.
Bit City of Ember in a lot of ways.
Which is, if anyone knows me, major plus points. Anything that feels post-apocalyptic.
So that was
weird
those-
how much it felt like the Vault in like the
yeah,
Left,
yeah,
right?
it did. Just more homely.
So that was their sort of lifestyle very much profiled from the get-go. But then when you sort of go above ground and you kind of see the outfits of all the people up there, it's like, okay, this is a massive different way of life. But then when you also see the surrounding areas, and everything is just as worn out and washed out and damaged as it is down there, which I was actually quite surprised by, because I thought there was going to be much more a stark contrast of really rural and horrible down there. Go upstairs, everything's just pristine and shining, but it's just as buggered as it is downstairs.
It's like the satellite dishes.
Yeah.
It's just like that field of satellite dishes which never really explained.
It's just there.
But it's just there and it's just like,
Assumed they're just
this
not
is
used.
all. This is
I
all.
sort of get the idea that that could potentially be attributed to the fact that they are sort of disallowed from looking around and exploring, and all the interiors of the buildings were very sort of upper class and clean, but everything on the outside maybe just didn't matter because they're just like, right, your life doesn't matter until you're in this big building and we're pumping your head through what we want you to know.
Especially, it's reinforced by the fact that when they're on the treadmills, like going down, like they only look at their feet, so there's like no chance for them to look at the outside of the buildings or anything.
It had this very sort of Big Brother society about it, where there was like someone looking at all the cameras, and they were just staring at everyone. As soon as someone stepped out blind, it's like, you've lost points. Get back in.
And if you ever forgot that it was Big Brother Society, the cameras were very loud.
Very
I was really expecting that bit when Porter and Age were just like stuck on the scene and it was like, ooh. I was expecting the camera to slowly pan round
like,
and then just this massive face. Oops. Oh man, those two were genius.
Okay, so fast forwarding from there, I think the next good thing to talk about is Patema and Eiji's first meeting.
Yeah.
And when you actually finally sort of get the face to face, and it's just like, what could be going through their minds? And it's just like, whoa. Because it's at this point, because they would have heard rumors and everything, and in his school they're sort of taught about how people go up to the skies where the big devil lives or anything. But would either of them have been aware of reverse gravity existing at this point?
I didn't.
They're aware. I think they're aware because Patema was aware of Eiji as like a bat person.
Yeah.
Because that's just like, you're a bat person, you're going to eat me, no!
And Eiji says to her, are you an invert?
You're an invert, yeah.
So it's just
And
kind
stuff
of
like the photographs as well that shared. That sort of floated up to the ceiling.
And they sort of use it as an insult as well, because his teacher says your brain's inverted.
Yeah.
So it's a
Burn.
like it's just like
sick
an
burn.
invert.
What I did like, going to the teacher a little bit, I liked the bit where he said, you're just like your father, and then you see the camera go just back there, just like, -2
But I'm not going to
points
give
for
up.
anger.
I'm not going to give up. You're a good kid. You're just a bit misguided. I'm going to help you.
It was
Your
like,
father
he,
was
he
a
saw
great
the
man.
Camera. He saw the camera move around and he went, we're not going to give up on you.
That swerve turn, that was so good.
Nice save.
I did like that though, because it showed kind of even he's
nobody's
under
above
pressure
Yeah.
and he's fallible as well.
Like
Like they still have will.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a society still trying to get itself under control.
Yeah.
So many of these things where they've got like dystopian, heavily controlled societies, all of the grown-ups have just like been brainwashed already. Like,
Yeah, they're completely gone. You wouldn't get an interaction like that.
Like Equilibrium.
Yeah.
All of the grown-ups
In
are
this
just
one, it
fine.
still seemed like there was still
Yeah.
bits of resistance.
The old sort of wobbles, but
Yeah.
that was good because it kind of really raised the stakes that little bit higher.
In regards to that brainwashing thing, because the kids are obviously sort of, and the adults are a bit more feisty, how long after this accident is this supposed to happen? Like, are those adults still... Like, are those adults kids from the time when the accident happened, so they've not been brainwashed quite so much?
I assume there's been a good couple of generations because they talk about the elder, and obviously the elder I assume was quite old when he died. And you know, so this is a guy that I assume was around long enough to create the society underground and then pass away. So
and also the man with the golden gun at the end, not to spoil anything, but his reaction.
Not spoil anything.
That's
You
kind
can't
of
spoil
what-
it.
there's still stuff in his
Really,
panel.
Yeah, we're not bothered.
Yeah. But yeah, just at the end where the floor sort of breaks away, and then he's like, "Oh my God, it's actually the sky."
Yeah.
And he doesn't know anything about that. So
I wonder if they feel like the world is flat at this point. Like, they think the world is completely flat, and they're like, oh my God, there's a sky underneath where we are. What?
Yeah, there's another sky.
Because, I don't know, it just feels like they don't fully understand how the world is working at this point.
Well, they said that like the scientists like took full responsibility for what they did, so maybe part of what they did was they were just like, oh, we're just gonna completely like cover all of this stuff up and then like just kind
He'll
of
be fine, he'll be fine.
yeah, just kind of brush it away and then make the best
you
of
don't
it.
need to brush it away. All the evidence has gone up there.
Could we just address up there? What the hell was that?
Here's the moon.
I like to
No.
It was cheese.
We have a diagram somewhere.
Oh, you-
I think
you
our
mean the sky.
understanding of it was that the stars in the sky,
Are a massive industrial complex?
sort of.
Where stuff lands?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what it was exactly and why it was there specifically. What, I guess, it needed to be there.
I was gonna say that ceiling is like the biggest problem with the film because it ruins any
Biggest
sort of
question mark.
interpretation.
Well,
about
Maybe
it.
it was just left over from the Truman.
Well, I'm because for me, once I sort of caught on to the idea that okay, this has got nothing to do with our universe whatsoever. Because when you start watching this and you go, okay, how does this work? And it's like, okay, this is set in some completely other thing, so you don't need to worry about sort of certain logistics. And when it comes to the fact that the city in the sky, and how that is hard to sort of cotton onto why it's a thing, how it's a thing, because you can sort of figure out exactly through when the hole in the floor, when they get through to the other side, how that's how the gravity has worked. That all kind of makes sense within the realms of the logic of the world. But with the ceiling not being sort of applied to that same logic and can't be figured out as easy, I guess it didn't bother me on the simple ground that I'm fine with there being something sort of left to be a mystery
Yeah.
because there's a lot to this world that we don't know
Because
about.
it's
Sit there and try and work it out. It's like,
Yeah.
And it's like,
That's
I-
great.
Well, that's why they steered away from using any iconic buildings or anything when they found remains of the old thing, because then it's definitely Earth.
Yeah.
Whereas this way you can sort of see it could be a different
more
planet.
ambiguous, yeah.
What were you going to say, Andy? You had a point like 5 minutes ago.
What was it? I think that they built that whole ceiling to make sort of the sky and the stars and everything to pretend that they weren't in fact the actual people that were inverted.
Yeah,
and
I'm
they
under
were
the impression that they
descendants.
were the ones that were inverted. That's what I took away from the film. This is talking more towards the end.
When we were talking about it after, and I was like, so why would it warm up? And I thought about it, and
Might
I
be
was
the
like, so
centre of the
because of
Earth.
the centre of the Earth.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
certain
that's-
times, it would pulse up, and that's why it warmed up and got
Maybe
hot.
it's an over a
Because
live
maybe,
volcano.
Yeah.
maybe
It just
maybe
happened to
Matey
be-
Peeps with the golden gun was aware of what was up there, and that's why he didn't want anyone flying around like Age's dad.
He was always saying to give the impression that he was trying to fool himself into believing it.
It's probably one of those things where he was well aware of what was going on, but he was so engrossed in it that he'd actually managed to delude himself.
Yeah.
Did that guy ever actually get a name as well, or is he just evil bloke?
I just called him
How
Jafar.
far
I
So
just
I
call
don't
him Popeye because he's like.
He never blinked.
He definitely
Yeah,
had
he
some
did.
really interesting facial stuff going on.
Yeah, he did. It was a right giggle at times. It was
We-
like, look at that face.
The interpretation that I came up with that makes the most sense to me, but still doesn't quite make sense, is just the idea that the world itself is upside down. So the metal ceiling is the floor, and
Oh
then
my
the
God,
sky
it's like
down there is the
Australia
actual
is
sky.
here.
But
I
there's
am
still
wrong
there's
there.
intrinsic
Speaking as a
things wrong with
visiting invert, what did you think?
I am very disoriented here. I don't know how I'm sitting down and why is everything that we normally treat as the floor on the ceiling.
I think every single interpretation that you could come up with is flawed in one way or another,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is what makes it so interesting, because everything is plausible.
Yeah.
I think we're going to...
Yeah.
We were talking about Patema's and AG's meeting a second ago, weren't we?
Oh yeah, we proper like
Long time
went
ago.
away from that.
Can
It
we
was-
go
I don't
back
know.
to that fence? Because that fence was actually a really good tool. and
Best
everything.
character.
Yeah,
I
loved it. Because they do the meet, they're on different sides, but then later on when AG kicks it and gets through, it's sort of his progression into understanding
It's
patterns.
just amazing
And I just want to make
for
that point because
dystopia.
it sounded clever.
That's that thing of we're going to make it so scary, we're going to make them so afraid of falling down this
Yeah.
massive hole
That all
that
we
no
need
one's
to do
going to
is
go
stick
through the
a
gate
path.
anyway, so it
Well, it's
just
like-
needs to protect it.
Why is there
For
even a
lack of a
gate
better
there?
word.
It's like
Just to check that the
Still a
hole's
hole.
there.
it's like that bit. It's like that bit where Porter appears and he just kind of pops his head up and goes, "Oh shit! Oh shit!"
Oh, Porter, what a
Oh,
lad.
yeah, what a legend!
What a
Oh.
bro.
As soon as he
Classic
appeared, I
third
knew, oh, you're not going to be the girl he ends up with.
It's alright. He's going to end up with that one girl from
Yeah.
class. It's alright. It's fine. We've
You're
come up with a
never
head.
gonna-
We've come up with a head canon
Oh,
already.
yeah.
Who was that girl? Because she just kept being
She was
like,
just
oh,
Porter's
AG,
new
you're
girlfriend.
alright,
AG.
and then that'd be it.
She was just
AG's
Age's mate that
friend.
was mildly concerned about him.
Yeah.
But not concerned enough.
Not concerned enough to like, you know, she
She
didn't
get
want.
involved in the
She didn't want to
story.
lose her points. Yeah.
She probably got demerits though because she did like
She just
stop
argue
and talk
against
to him and
Yeah.
arguing and.
And she was the first to look up as well, which is just
Yeah.
that's suicide.
I can't believe we have to look at page 3 again. Look, you can't look at the sky. The scriptures say so.
I told you last week.
Look up there. Oh shit.
I think the main reason earlier when we first brought up the meeting that I was kind of on the fence about whether or not they knew about. Yeah. I didn't actually intend that. I'm so funny. But what was I saying? It was basically when she gets to the top of the fence and he's just like, "What the fuck are you doing, love?" Just like, what are you playing at? Because he thinks she's just like pretending.
Mucking about.
He's just like, oh.
And then she actually falls up, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Ugh!" And then they have that flyy moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was so
Every
good
single
again
one
as
of
well,
those is
though.
great.
Like we mentioned at the end of the film yesterday that it has a lot of parallels to Gurren Lagann as well,
Yeah.
and that scene particularly
Yeah.
with the up and then the down and.
I think that was harping on back to the background stuff. The
Yeah.
sort of like cloudscape
Yeah.
just looked
Yeah.
absolutely stunning.
That was-
It was glorious.
Zoom out,
With all like
it's
the
just all those
swirls and stuff in
twisted-
it.
Yeah. So someone.
My family up there.
You said that they're falling like through the sky. I mean, they're both like upside down. You think that? I mean, one of them would be jammed, but do you think the fact that the other was holding on might be like like reverse gravity on them, so like they're still falling, but they're like going
What?
as fast.
I suppose Patema would have become jam.
She is.
AG would have like nutted the ceiling and then just fallen all the way back. Double jam. It'd be like an inverted sandwich.
Or a split Oreo.
The one thing I didn't get though was who was the guy that was speaking to Patema when she was younger?
Lagos.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. He said in one of the flashbacks, he said, "Don't ever let go of him."
Oh,
I
that,
guess
that was
means
the
they
thing.
don't
was
fly away.
Dreamscape.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that was. I think she was dreaming at that
Yeah.
point because it was an old
Okay.
memory. Because in the original memory, he said, "Oh, you know, I'm going to be gone for a long time," and then at this point, she was aware that Lagos was dead. So I think she goes, "Oh,
He
No,
says
I'm
he's
not coming
there.
back.
I'm not coming back."
And that's when she changes to older Patema.
Yeah.
And that's when you know, oh, this is a dream. It's not just
Yeah.
a
And he's-
flashback.
and he's
Keep
like-
all that.
Really wish
Keep
I
all
paid
that
more
boy.
attention
He's a
during
good
that
one.
bit.
Meanwhile, he's just
Don't
dreaming
say
If you
about
don't,
kissing
you'll
my
die.
baby.
Don't go with Porter. He's a bit stupid.
Because at that point, I was convinced that was the end of the movie. It was going to go into that scene just with a flashback, and then the credits were going to roll. I was like,
Yeah.
It's straight up just because when you see them falling
That
up
was-
after the gun scene, it just does this fat fade to black. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, is that credits time?
I would have cried. I would have been like, no!
Laters.
It's just that awkward moment where everyone's just standing there staring, going, "What the hell just happened?"
I think the only reason I was thinking it might roll the credits was just like, surely they're dead.
That's it.
That would have been a
One
wicked
bit-
Romeo and Juliet way to finish it.
I was expecting like when they were falling up and you get the like the star, the view of all the stars, and as they were just falling up and everything was clearing, I was gonna be like, they're city lights, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
city lights. Oh, it's city lights.
I genuinely
Way!
thought that they were gonna like run into a race of people there, but never did. I was
Likewise.
really confused about that actually.
Yeah.
So I
We're
was like,
trying
oh,
to
what's
get
the
down there
point?
for years, but it's just not working.
I think that's the thing that makes that part of the story such a grey area. It's just that if it was just kind of an artificial ceiling to sort of be like, yeah, these are the lights that are meant to be the stars, then it wouldn't need to be all of the cityscape and all of the buildings,
Yeah.
all of the sort of clear areas that people will be living
'Cause
in.
Unless at one point some people were there to maintain it, and for whatever reason they
I guess.
were there.
Yeah,
So why
Yeah.
would you also why would you
Like
label
melt.
it? It's called Area 45 or something. 5B.
Area E5
Yeah.
or something.
Area 51. Like
I
you
wish
said
it was.
yesterday.
I guess that makes sense if it was some sort of
Yeah,
if it was
it's
built
also-
as some sort of power generator using the heat. I'm assuming this area is closest to the core of the Earth, so perhaps
If
it was
you
using-
go with the inverted Earth theory, then the inverted Earth theory. Give all of the names. What was
I'm Cameron Rose. This is my university thesis on the inverted Earth.
sources? Power inverted.
so that they
And
use
science.
so they're using the heat generated from the core to basically just keep these lights on.
That sounds like such like a Superman villain
Yeah.
evil
Yeah.
plot.
Yeah.
I'm going to replace the core of the Earth with an engine and drive it into the sun.
Yep.
Unless that's the generator they were using to draw power from
to make
gravity.
Gravity, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many ways you could interpret it.
It could have been a power generator.
I mean, that could have been the actual machine because
Yeah.
they're all
The
down a
machine.
hole.
Yeah.
Does explain why it would get super hot as well.
And was right above where the big hole was anyway.
Or maybe the heat was just a metaphor for their passionate love.
Oh,
And the kiss that we weren't allowed to see.
Because they're babies.
They're children.
Stop imagining kids doing it.
The thing is though, it couldn't have been that hot because like her bag, when they found that was still intact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could've
Otherwise
been
it would
that.
have
That light though, that light had seen better days.
It was pretty scuffed up. The bag.
It was.
I don't
but it
know.
was
Well, that's because the bag like flew like a million miles up, like up to the sky. So of course it wasn't.
I did find it
but
funny
that
how
did the buckle
top
torch broke.
conveniently died as they arrived. Just like,
Yeah.
oh no, you finally made it. Oh.
There's a good lead up to that big reveal of finding
The ship.
AG's
Oh, before
dead.
we go there, can I just say my favourite bit in this entire like sequence of events was where they were about to shoot AG and then Patema died for him and it was in slow motion and then it stopped being in slow motion and they were just like
Oh, that bit was so funny because
I was like,
Because of
what
Villain Man.
happened? Why?
I just think how they animated it because there was basically like blurring keyframes and you just saw like the after images and it just looked a bit janky.
I love that bit when they go to the villain and they're just like,
How did the head of the security police get that far without shooting anybody? Clearly had major issues with
Because accidents don't happen very often.
Accidents
There's
don't
only
happen.
been one accident.
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk about
And
that
he's-
after we
and
talk about the
that
whole
was
notebook thing as well.
You
Sorry,
obviously, you obviously don't want to lose any points.
Can't shoot people. God.
So the notebook that revealed
Yeah, you want
that
it?
Lagos and Age's
That-
dad.
That was my favourite bit.
Yeah.
Like the reveal that Lagos and Age's dad were mates was awesome.
That whole
Like,
sequence that
I
after it
loved
though
it.
was rubbish.
'Cause
Because
that
it
was
was
the
just
story.
like still frames that was just
Yeah,
like, oh, it's a
no,
5-minute
but
montage
that-
of still frames.
But that was the bit. I felt like that was the
Figured out already.
moment that kind of both of the storylines kind of truly married together.
Yeah.
And that was when everything became cohesive. That was like the joining point.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I know they were all still images and it was a bit rubbish, but it was just kind of nice seeing these two blokes being
Yeah.
mates. I was like that one image where
The
they're,
table.
yeah, when
Yes.
they're sitting under the
Yeah.
table. I was like, oh, that's amazing.
He's got the table bolted to the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just like, they're just having a chin wag. It's brilliant.
It's like, I really want to know why they had such intricately detailed blueprints for the flying machine. It's just like, the top bit's not unheavy enough yet. We need to make it unheavier.
I think it's just a case of balancing parts made from the different things that have the different properties of gravity, to make it actually like work properly.
Lagos is clearly insane though, because he was sat on the windowsill. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
Mr. AG was to have just patted him on the back, like, well done, it's like, oh crap.
Bye!
I think he knows not to do that.
Don't need a flying machine now.
I think there was an incident where he was sat on the underside of the roof with his legs just dangling into the sky as well.
It did it like from like the small amount of Lagos that we saw. He did kind of give the impression of someone who was a little bit eccentric and probably didn't give a crap.
Well, there's the
Yeah.
thing when they're freaking on the little car and
Yeah.
he's just hanging
He's
on
hanging
to
on
it.
to it.
Yeah, it's like, hey!
Like,
How did the police not
Notice
crack
that.
onto that? I mean, I know
There's
they
a
were.
guy there who should have been
yeah.
It's
So
like
they're
that-
off to the circus, he's practicing his handstand.
No, he's just paragliding really well.
I've gotten into very elaborate balloon animal making.
This is my best one yet.
I
I
did
feel-
like that with the journal. I did do one of those things they do a lot where the big reveal. They didn't have like a letter to AG
Yeah.
or something, just
Yeah.
like, dear AG, I know I'm going to die. I hope you find this someday.
Yeah, there'd be
Here's
a letter
every bit of
from
closure.
there'd be a letter from Lagos and back to Patema as well.
Yeah.
There was a letter.
I did think because when you see the screenshot of the
It's like
journal,
an email
there's
that I
some.
don't understand what
Yeah.
was in the
Yeah.
email.
He like revealed this piece of
This
paper at the
makes
end.
you
and was
understand
just like,
everything.
oh, and then they panned away from it. It's like, well, no,
Well,
wait.
that
What's
comes
what's
back.
what's the
Yeah,
page?
there was
What's
one
what
bit
is it
on
saying?
that. It's all like
Here's what happened.
it's all jumbled letters and numbers, but there's one tiny bit of English at the end that just says email is powerful. It's like, or at least that's what it looked like.
I like to think that the elder just didn't know how to read.
Yeah, that's why he saw it. He was just like,
Yeah,
yes.
Well, that explains everything.
Order confirmation, 700 blow up dolls.
That's like what's been
Where they
ordering.
came from. Oh.
That's what they made the flying machine out of.
Reversed gravity blow up dolls.
A bit kinky, aren't we? What was I going to say? Oh, I just lost it now. Hey Tom.
Hey, Tom. One thing that I was going to bring up about the notebook is that I appreciated that it was a very important plot point, but it wasn't too overpowering to the point where the entire film just felt like they were chasing after the MacGuffin. Because it's something a lot of films with a key sort of plot device like that fall into.
And at least it actually made sense for the bag to be in the cabin, because his
Yeah.
dad didn't expect to die.
Yeah.
I
He
wonder
could
how
be
his
making
dad
notes.
went though. Like
He
that's...
didn't die, he had an accident.
He flew out of a
He didn't have
hot
an
air balloon.
accident.
Did
God
he fall
punished
was
him.
sniped.
Well, no, he sniped, but it didn't
And then
show
he
him
fell
like
out.
actively falling
Yes,
out.
yes,
Did
it
it?
did.
It did in
Where
the
was
Yeah,
I?
did you not see AG have that like
AG
flashback
Oh,
memory of his dad
flashback
falling
memory.
out of the
He was
balloon?
waving
Because
and
he
he
left
literally
school
just
to
went.
go watch it.
It's like
You
the
I
might-
remember him waving. I don't remember.
Yeah, there was a
his
second
name.
flash. You might have gone to
Fair,
that
fair.
after.
What he didn't do
Right.
is he didn't
That-
look
he
at his
was
dad, he
probably
just
thinking.
continued to look at
Yeah.
the machine
It's when he was
flying up.
talking to Patema and he was like, oh, I left school, I snuck out of school so I could go see my dad start his flying machine, and then there's this like little flashback
It
of
was
his dad plummeting.
terrifying.
I think it's the accident where I have the most questions. Like, did nobody notice the bullet wound when he hit the floor? And when he got shot by a high caliber bullet, why did he then fall forwards?
Yeah.
Maybe it was a trank dart type
It had 90-degree backwards gravity on the bullet.
Ah, I see.
So-
No,
so-
yeah,
so-
that does make sense. It does make
That's the
sense.
premise from
Get
Patema
to
Inverted.
It's made of half and
Yeah.
half.
Maybe you lost points for looking at the body.
Two AG
And it would've gone,
sideways.
So never mind that point. I obviously blinked, but those whole like flashback sequences that we see of that moment just seemed really like janky and.
I found though.
I think it's on purpose, but it just
Yeah,
seemed like
because
janky
the
and
first
like,
time the
I couldn't
first time
really
you
understand
see
what
it, it's
happened.
got no context. because you see it immediately after Eiji and Patema first meet, because it's just Eiji remembering the memory
It's just
when he's just sitting on his own. Yeah, but because you don't have any context to it, I found it quite chilling. Because I was like, oh, this is something like that guy's literally, because obviously from that point of view, it looks like he's gone up in a hot air balloon and then just committed suicide in front of loads of people, and that was really quite dark, which is something that obviously without the context you think that's a bit. Really? You're going to go there?
It had a great subplot from then on, because you're wondering what the hell happened there.
Yeah. And you go, oh, excellent.
Yeah. Had a trip.
There's actually a fair amount running through that felt quite dark, because just inherently, the scenes in which they're grabbing onto each other and just moving along, with how they use the music and everything, it's very kind of like powerful and moving and energetic or whatever. But when you actually kind of think about that and how terrifying that is, she's just being suspended over an imminent death. But the way that they sort of you use the audio and everything makes it so it doesn't feel like that. When in actuality, that's horrendously bad.
Well, when you're at Patema's point of view, like if you go from Eiji to Patema, suddenly the wind sounds pick up and it's really overpowering.
Yeah, the sound design in that regard was incredible. With how they, whenever they flip perspective.
I just find it quite funny in that one scene where they first decide to kind of use each other to fly as it'll like glide along, and you had that one piece of music that was like a slow build up to doo-doo, you're flying, and then they stop, and then it stops. And then they go and do it again, and the build-up just starts again from number one. It's like, way!
What I really loved is how much in awe Patema was, even though she was like scared when she like sort of was in the cage, and she sort of looked down, she's like, oh, it's beautiful, and it was like, oh god, I'm gonna fall off.
I'm gonna die, but it's so good.
Nothing to lose sort of vibe at some point.
Yeah.
Can you imagine sleeping in that bed at the top of that building?
Oh my god,
with just the abyss underneath you or over you.
Yeah, I think I just literally exploded inside when Eiji like ran up to her and gave her a hug. I was like, oh my god, this is too good.
When you hear all the noises and then like she just like sits up and she's like, what is that? And then suddenly he just hugs her. And
she genuinely thought Creepy Eye Guy was just gonna come out somewhere and then Eiji was gonna punch him.
Yeah, and then he was gonna sing Hellfire from the Hunchback.
That's what he was doing. That's why it took him ages to turn up. Because he was too busy singing.
He was singing into a fireplace.
Whilst at the same time terrified of it.
Yeah, I liked that scene, and then it all went bad real quick.
Yeah, it did go horribly, horribly wrong, didn't it?
How did Porter get off the ceiling where all of the security police were back to?
I think it's just a case of we didn't care about him that much, so they didn't need to show it.
They didn't. I cared. I think my explanation for it was just they weren't aware that he was there.
Yeah.
So because they were too busy focusing on Patema.
So he just was right underneath them.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh my god, look up at the sky, or maybe don't, because you know rules.
He had rope as well, so he managed to climb that down on the rope.
Yeah, because they had that extra tunnel.
Oh
That's
my
how
god.
they got down.
That was my favourite bit, was when they were having the funeral for Patema.
Yo!
That was my favourite bit, I thought that was hilarious.
That in any movie is great.
That was good.
That was genius timing right there.
I knew it was going to happen, I saw it coming, but I still thought it was brilliant when it happened.
It's kind of a bit on the nose when she's just like, quick, grab me and my new boyfriend.
Speaking of that tunnel, there's one thing I didn't understand about the movie, is like, clearly both sides had a map of like, the city and like the underground, and he was like, I'm going to find those inverts, and it's like, well, why haven't you started with the map?
Why haven't you start with the giant hole?
Yeah, start with the giant hole, go down there, and you might find something.
Just looking up in trees.
Your
The
nice
whole
shiny
is scary.
goes
I think it's the
all
idea.
through.
It's a very similar idea to why Patema and then like Lagos and stuff weren't supposed to venture into the hole, because it was a danger zone for them, but it was also a danger zone for, is it Eiger? Is that what it was called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they weren't supposed. That's why it was all like fenced off and stuff. So that's a restricted area anyway, and it just so happened to be that the big building went straight down into it, and no one seemed to notice. But
yeah.
Well, both civilizations helped each other build.
That's what I was thinking at some point.
And then just went a bit.
Because they said at some point they had to halt production or something, because they said
Yeah.
it wasn't worth trying. They wanted wanted to go in a different direction, ironically upwards.
Or downward.
True.
Didn't they say that it was initially made so that the two
they could
started to
communicate.
communicate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
but then it just all broke down. When I go like, yeah, we're going to introduce a point system, and if you look up at the sky, then you can't have any breakfast. And then the inverts were like, well, that's looking down for us. Do you want us to do this a whole load? No breakfast for you. And then like, Sergeant, I'm going to have my breakfast. Well, no,
We're gonna take all your seeds.
no giant pipe talk for you, mister.
I do like the fact that we didn't really get to know Lagos and Age's dad that much, but through the film, you saw that Age's dad sort of lived his dream of wanting to fly, even though it got him killed.
Yeah.
And we had this other thing that Lagos just wanted people to communicate again. He wanted to bring,
And
like,
he
unite both the
definitely-
sides, and I
Oh.
feel like
But
that
then-
happened
well,
at the end
for
of the
him
film on a
and
small
Was
scale.
I the only one who thought, when Lagos went missing, why did Age's dad just not do anything? He
He
was
was-
like missing.
He was already dead. He was already dead by that point.
Because
Because they found Lagos immediately after killing him.
Yeah.
Because he was
Literally,
he was
Oh,
he was
yeah.
watching from the shed.
Seconds.
Yeah, that's
No,
what
they
it
really
was.
odd
gets
to
They
that, 'cause
caught
he
him
was-
as Age's
They
dad.
caught
Yeah.
Lagos and then they shot the dad. Because they shot him from the place
From
where
the
they
place where
caught
they caught
Lagos.
him.
During the montage,
That's
you
very
actually
odd
see
to me, 'cause
Lagos just going,
he was
oh,
just sort of
shit,
sitting. He was sitting in the shed, just sort of watching, and he turns around. There's just 5 Batmen. Just there, it's like,
Unleash the Batman.
Go with him.
in the balloon.
Because the people aren't supposed to know that inverts actually are around. They're
Yeah, but
supposed
they
to
had
think
that like top
everyone is.
section. You could easily have just sat
Can you
inside
imagine?
that top section when no one would have seen.
Because he was just
Until
watching
it's
from
too
the
late.
car at the time, wasn't he? So can
Yeah.
you just imagine all that's kicking off? Like Age's dad is dead, Lagos has been captured. Like, can you just imagine the guy just sitting there in the car, just going. Yeah, I'm an evil bastard.
In regards to Lagos, though, one thing that really did kind of freak me out a little bit was when you saw him in the tank.
Oh,
Yeah. That was
because
messed up.
you know from like when they start kind of building up to it, and then the guy's like, I've caught an invert before, and it's like, oh,
why
no.
don't you trust me?
Oh no.
I suspended your friend in a tank so you could see him again.
Yeah,
Everything I do is nice.
Yeah, why
Honest.
did he do that?
This can't be
Sorry?
interpreted.
What was, like, Lagos is dead. Why is he in a tank?
I think it's just because the guy's nuts.
It's like a
But,
trophy
like,
type
you know
thing.
how.
Well, how are you going to bury
I think
him?
it's
I
he's kind of
interpret it-
fascinated by them as well.
Yeah,
Like, he's
I
fascinated by
can't-
inverts, but he's not
you
meant
can't,
to be.
he said it
But
with
he
a
wants
spade
to know
scope.
everything about them, but they're evil, so he shouldn't.
You can't,
Yeah,
you can't
I
mount
sort
him
of-
on a plaque because if he tries to, it'll just float off the wall.
I sort of interpreted it as some sort of trophy, personally.
Yeah.
Like, I've done this to an invert, I've captured an invert, look what I've done.
Mine is an
Just
evil
more,
laugh.
more effed up. if
Where
you
it
will.
is in the middle.
I think it's like he was in this like glass upwards tank, so maybe he was just trying to make Zordon.
Mewtwo from the first movie.
Yep.
I like that one. I understand that one.
Oh dear.
So what else?
We could talk about like the sort of penultimate scenes where everything's going nuts. In the
Everything really
underground
did
area.
just go nuts.
It went
didn't it?
ballistic for
The
the last
progression, there were like
10,
moments
20
of action where it was quite like tense and everything, but it really did just kind of go. The plot moved fairly slowly,
Yeah.
and then the last 15 minutes were just wacky. It was just
Yeah,
like,
they were.
whoa! Everything kicks off, and then
I
it just sort of ended.
I got to the point where I was like, okay, I know that this showing of it ends in like 10 minutes and I have no idea where it's going. I don't know what's happening.
It went
Oh, buildings, yeah.
Buildings.
It ended.
I did like that last little bit where they were all at the bottom of the thing, it cracked open,
Yeah.
Frollo was gone, Porter was like,
Caught in a
It was
net.
a
Zoe was
proper-
dead for a bit, you know.
He is-
Oh man, just massive props to Porter at the end.
Oh, yeah.
When
Yeah.
he nutted him, I was like, yes.
And that
Flying
fucking-
head
one
bump.
of the villain's freaking matey who just like saves the day.
I know,
with his
yeah.
gun.
Just like he looks like an SS officer, and he just
Yeah.
saved the world.
It's like you're the man.
Can you save me in a more dignified way next time? You're welcome.
That guy was funny as
It was
well.
great
brilliant.
because it was
It was
like because he was always disobedient throughout, and then at the end it's like, oh, good job, good job, guys.
It almost seemed like at that point that Frollo was just
Is
maintaining.
that right?
He's now Frollo.
He was just maintaining this order, and nobody else cared for it. Everyone absolutely hated the status quo, and he was like the only guy to be like, "Yes, everyone gets to have points. No breakfast. You just look at the sky. Oh yes, I've got a big gun. Everyone's scared of me." And everyone's just like, "Oh, for fuck's
I love that bit when they first punish Eiji and he just takes his chair. It's mine now.
It just sits there. I mean, he was quite, like, at that point, he was quite sinister.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think towards the end, he did kind of become a bit of a joke.
Yeah,
Because
it was-
nobody gave a shit about him by the
I
end
think
of
it
it.
was kind of intended for him to become quite kind of a joke, because they did put some of his scenes in very sort of comedic ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the way that they sort of did his face. It's just like there's not
He's
many
always
ways to
doing
make
this.
those
Yeah.
eyeballs and the
In the
expressions.
showing
of the
yesterday,
bullet.
we always laughed at his facial expressions. Everyone was like
Every single
laughing
time.
at it.
It's just like, you know the bit after he's shot the net at them to try and catch them, sends them and helps them, and they go back to the underground, and then you see his face and he's just like for like no changes in animation, just solid for like 5 seconds, and he's like
He literally did just turn into a pantomime at the end, didn't he? And then at the end, like when he falls up into the sky at the end, that's like a horrible thing to happen, but it was hilarious.
bye.
And he got hit
That's
by
weird.
the yellow submarine thing.
Hmm?
Like the yellow thing just fell on him
Yes!
as well.
Oh yeah, cracked on him.
That
like,
was so cool
He's
though,
actually
because
dead.
he was holding Patema, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so the yellow thing just like she slips through and just freaking hits him and sends
Yeah.
him out, and it was badass.
I thought that was cool that it was H dad's
Yeah.
thing that killed him.
Yeah, man.
That was cool.
Sweet justice.
And what was everyone's immediate reaction when the floor fell through and they go through? It's like, okay, there's the building from the flashback.
Here we go again.
The moment they all reached that point and there was like a crack in the floor, I was like, it's gonna collapse,
Yeah.
isn't it? And then it just did. But I didn't really expect to see the sky.
Yeah, I didn't know
I was
what
just
was
like,
gonna
I just thought it was gonna be some kind of thing.
Halfway through, I was saying that the lights and everything, that was
Yeah.
the inside, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be the sky. It's gonna be the
Yeah.
sky. I was
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah, it's like,
know.
we were all there just going, it's going to be the sky, yes!
You know
Yeah,
to
that's why he
me.
stood up and went, called it.
Yeah, you leaned over to me in the middle of the room and you went,
Yeah.
and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It says that on the box, like if you look at the back of the box, the last line is something basically on the lines of, what if they're the inverts?
I think pretty much, like, as soon as you see the metal sky, you start thinking, well, maybe things
Yeah.
aren't quite what you
Yeah.
think they are.
Mm.
But
And then that's when
and then you
everything
forget,
goes out
and
the
then
window.
suddenly
Yeah.
there's the moon.
Yeah.
This
That's
very
the
close.
sky, then,
The big
oh, brain.
That means that they should get all their points back, really.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
Breakfast is reinstated.
You all get Crispies.
Can you imagine that was the last line? The henchman guy goes, breakfast is back on.
I've had breakfast in 6 weeks.
I like how we played our own
The last line should have been Pamish going, I never did have that sandwich.
No, she did.
And then
Because she
they
says
just
that
jump
she's
up
been-
and freeze
Yeah.
frames.
80s music cuts in. Yeah!
When Age and Handsome were sort of on the other way around, so Age was like in trouble of falling up through the sky,
Yeah.
and I just loved how Handsome sort of started running through the fields and everything on the world, and then he just didn't have any fear because he trusted her. And
Yeah.
just like, hold me, I wanna feel like.
Yeah.
And they were actually holding each other properly rather than just by the hand. It was like a hug.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think part of the reason that scene became really strong too was because they had that moment where suddenly Eiji was the invert, and then he was like, now I know exactly how he feels because the elder was
Well,
like,
they swapped
you don't know what
everything.
she's going
You don't know
through.
what it's like.
Yeah, and then suddenly he's like knows exactly how he
Okay,
feels.
yeah,
So it's
now I
like,
get it.
yeah.
I love that bit where he's trying to tell the villain, you know, try and see the world from her perspective. It's like, I don't care, I'm evil.
And then someone goes, you will see the world from her perspective or whatever. And then the like world cracks open and then like,
No, man,
You see that-
It's Asia doing this Super Saiyan
Yeah.
scream. Ah! And then the
But-
floor just like cracks open. It's like just Goku.
That was so
But there is that moment when like the floor breaks and they're like suspended momentarily, and like Frollo's face, like he has that realization, like, oh my god, now I know
I don't know
exactly
what's
how it
under the end.
feels.
What I
Yeah.
say is that the bit where Frollo, this is the thing, mate. When he shot Eiji, I thought he just genuinely shot him. I thought
Yeah.
that was game over
Yeah.
right
I
there.
thought
Yeah.
Patema had been shot.
I
Yeah.
thought that he'd sort of given up, but still wanted to shoot
Yeah.
the gun, so shot the floor again.
Mm.
Mm.
I thought he just shot through both of them.
Yeah, that's game over for someone. But no, he just shot him in the leg.
There were a
And
few
then they got rid of the gun, and I was like, what are you going to do now?
That knife was a badass.
Pretty nice. Magic gold one, he got it at the same time as he got it.
I really
That's
liked
his
it
point,
here in his
right?
shows, like, because that shows his character, because he honestly revelled in torturing people.
Yeah.
By holding her up and just being like, I could let you go now.
Yeah.
Anytime I want.
She will tell us where the other inverts are. Why haven't you just asked her? What? No, I've got fun. She's got to trust me.
There was a moment when we were watching yesterday. I can't remember who said it, but somebody was like, "Is it basically like Gilgamesh is like a Gate of Babylon, where he's just like got all of these weapons, just like waiting to come out?"
What would he have pulled out next?
Just like
If he lost the knife, if he had a chance, what weapon do you think he would have pulled out next? Like a taser?
Beat him to death for years.
They did have tasers.
They did have
Yes.
tasers.
Yeah, they did. They did because
The Batman had
the
taser.
Batman the First had a taser.
Michael Keaton.
Bruce
I think we
Wayne.
just retconned all the names.
Batman the First.
We got
And
Bruce
punishment is
Wayne.
no breakfast.
Let me check my anime list and change it to follow.
we haven't touched upon it in all this time, and we all know we wanted to talk about it.
Bye.
What happens when they shag?
Yeah.
All
All I'm gonna say is when
Patema
Patema has a baby, inevitably, it's just gonna float
Yeah.
and like spin around in the air.
I mean,
this,
they're able
this
to
is
fly.
easy.
No.
The origin story to some superhero.
Yeah.
Some guy who.
Hey,
Floating man.
at least 69ing for them was really easy because all they had to do was stand there.
No, because you've got to hold her down.
Well, you just cling to it. Well, they were clinging to each other. It's like, well, as you're there.
It is in house.
Clearly, you stand in a
very
low-ceilinged room.
And of course, neither of them can gain any more weight.
Wait,
Or else
Well,
they'll-
actually, they're having breakfast now.
Yeah,
Really
because if
quickly.
Patema got pregnant, AJ couldn't hold her down anymore.
Well,
No, like,
The
when
she
baby
was
would be like
down.
half weightless.
when
Yeah.
AG became inverted,
Yeah.
Patema just put a backpack on, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that's enough weight to hold you down."
Yeah, I suppose.
I like how everyone's come up with this idea that the baby would literally just do this.
Yeah, man, that's
But
the
what-
coolest baby ever.
But what if it came out and it was just like a normal person?
That'd be so
it didn't
boring.
do that.
Yeah, but then
What gravity? What gravity?
Maybe that's how we find out.
Yeah,
Maybe they have to
gravity
have
does.
a baby and then we figure it
Or
out.
maybe the baby's just kind of like that, whereas half the head and
What
the
if
legs.
she
The point
squints
that
and one
Frollo
starts
was
floating
going,
and one
what the
starts
hell
sinking?
would happen? I'm not going to make that happen.
Yeah,
That's
he-
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Going
it was literally
going on
different.
your twins ideas, if you had like
Yeah.
Siamese twins,
Okay.
like one floats up, one floats on their
Right, so
Have you Googled it?
Frollo's real name
Oh, don't
is
tell me.
Izamura.
Nah,
Just calling Frollo.
No.
Can I just point out that like they've all got quite interesting names. So you've got Patema, Age, Porter, Lagos, Izamura. The girl, Age's friend is called Kaho, and then the henchman guy in like the black jacket and stuff is just called Jack. God damn it, Jack.
It's fucking Jack from Tekken.
See, no, AJ should have been called Jack, because then you could have a Titanic joke.
What time is it?
It's like
11
o'clock.
Okay.
11, so we've got about half an hour.
Ish, yeah.
No, it's like 5 past. So.
Okay. We haven't talked about
Characters specifically.
We kind of have though, haven't we? We just sort
So,
of
we haven't
got
really actually properly focused on Patema and
Well, we can just say Patema's the best.
Patema is so
It's
cool.
so
Oh my god.
One thing I did quite like about their interaction was when AG turned around and went, "Oh, you're such a princess." She actually was. She was Flame's daughter.
No, she just says it straight away. She's like, yes, yes, I
Don't you
am.
forget.
Don't you forget.
Don't
Basically,
get me
the
that
story
sounds
itself at a point does divulge to a classic like saving the princess story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
She's
did.
at the top of the castle.
Yeah.
The fact that she was the princess and still did all this stuff really reminded me of Nausicaa, which is good because that's my favourite film. But the fact that Nausicaa was this princess who just went out on her own to do stuff,
Yeah.
that's what Patema did.
Yeah.
And I liked her because she was like Nausicaa.
Just did a thing. She was just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hope
And she
they're
was
at least
upside
a
down,
figure.
so.
You have to stick it upside down.
Oh, that'd be wicked if you could like
Glue
stick it
tacked
to
it
the
to the
ceiling.
ceiling.
Oh, they could make like a scale figure of a pair of them hugging, and you could
Oh,
you
that'd
could
be
change
really
which
cool.
side they get
Oh,
stand up
brilliant.
on. That'd be really cool.
Stick it on the
At the moment,
That'd be expensive.
I just want Frollo.
I don't care.
I just want to figure
It'd be
it out.
expensive, but it'd be
Frollo
really
Frollo,
cool.
they
You,
just
you
sort of
realise that for Christmas I'm going to buy a
Face
figure
it.
of Frollo from my travel. This is what you wanted.
Just like proper mad face on. Oh god, what was it? Terrible with names.
Jack.
No, figure of the canister with what's his face in it upside down.
Oh.
Lagos, thank you. Terrible with names.
You think you'd have to add your own water?
It could be like a snow globe.
You can shake it and pretend you're Frollo. Give me the answer.
AG.
It was definitely AG.
Yeah.
I liked him.
He was normal. I wrote down in my notes Joe Tagonist. Because he just seemed like a normal dude.
I
I
just
think
like.
that's what was needed for the
Yeah,
story, though.
oh, no, definitely. That's not a complaint.
You've got to give him props as well for being shot in the leg and still hanging on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't shot
and
in the
also
arm.
just general sort of mental strength and fortitude
Yeah.
for being able to be himself and be this character in a world where everyone else has just given in to the man.
And
Considering as well what he witnessed when his father
Yeah.
tried to fly.
Yeah.
I think
His
anyone
angry
else,
face.
especially in that society, you'd think, okay, he really has been punished for trying to fly. Maybe I should conform.
yeah.
But he didn't. He was like, well, no, something's not right here.
Yeah.
You know, my dad wouldn't just off himself.
Well, there's
He
that
was
part
too
where it's scanning all the desks and they're all really neat, and then you get to his and he's got pictures of his dad and it's all really
Yeah, it's
ugly.
all messy
He
and stuff.
keeps his tie tucked in his pocket. Which
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
really
his
awesome.
really long time.
Yeah, that tie would have been like down here.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
he'd not tucked it into his
He's
pocket.
probably just really short and that's a normal time.
At first, I thought that he was wearing like an inverted tie, and it was just
Yeah.
I mean,
like Lagos gave him a tie as a present. He's like,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, this is awesome. Flat.
I did like how AG was wearing like the little bangle thing as well
Yeah.
Yeah.
that kept floating up in the air.
It kept your perspective as well. It kept
Yeah.
you reminding you, oh, so he's actually that way now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's that way.
Yeah, I did
which
really
way
like
the
that.
sand should have been falling.
Yeah, what was the
Yeah.
was the sand of a different gravity?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the sand was
Yeah.
inverted
Yeah.
to what was the actual
That's why
container.
he gave it to. That's
Because that gives the impression that that thing is really damn old as well.
Yeah.
Because Lagos just found it while he was exploring once, didn't he? That's probably a relic from the time when everyone was friends.
Or AG's dad made it.
Yeah, or yeah, they could have made it. Yeah, that's very possible
Yeah.
as well. Except I suppose he did try to give it to it before he left.
Yeah.
So
It's not like AG's dad was like reputed, very well known in that country for
Yeah.
making lots of things. so-
Yeah, he was Inspector Gadget.
I get the feeling they only kept him around because he was very good at making things.
Yeah.
And they kind of tolerated his weirdness of wanting to fly into the sky,
to a
which was
point.
crazy.
Yep.
Up to certain points.
Just
Could you
make
imagine
a
like
couple
trying to
more
get a
Batman.
replica of that bracelet?
Yeah, just make us
It'd
more
be
stuff
quite,
that
it'd
we
be quite
want.
easy.
You want
to do,
more
I
red
suppose.
glowy
Just
eyes,
support
please.
it there and have it like point up.
Or you put a
Do
little
it.
propeller in it.
Yeah.
Or a bit of anti-gravity stuff.
Be
A
really
little
cool.
bit of anti-gravity.
Yeah.
Start doing science with gravity. That was weird. Like the whole premise of
Oh,
they
get
tried
energy
to
from
make
gravity.
gravity into an energy resource.
I
and
think
it
that they were
basically-
probably trying to do like a perpetual motion type thing of make
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
lighter at the top or at the bottom. It just keeps going.
But then the world imploded.
Well, it didn't implode. It floated to the sky.
All you need is
The
to
world
get
floated to the sky.
all you need to get is an invert and a non-invert and get them to run at each other really fast, tackle glomp each other, and then they'll just spin forever.
And then
you
somehow
use
insert
dynamo.
Well,
Or Patema's baby.
Yeah.
There you go. In there, right there.
Right, anything else anyone want to bring up about anything story character related before we
How
move
good
into
was
animation?
Porter?
Porter.
Yeah.
Just,
Porter was a boss.
that guy was
See, when they
absolutely.
teamed up, it was Portage.
he reminds me of, I know this is a really weird comparison to make, but Taro from Shirobako.
Yeah.
He reminded
Yeah,
me of him.
he was exactly that kind of character. I'm not sure how to completely nail down what that character archetype is called, but they turn up a lot. They're kind of like feisty, annoying one.
Yeah.
It's comic relief. That was what he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
that bit, like, shortly after he was saved by Jack. And he was just
Yeah,
remarking
Jack.
on, oh, and she likes him.
I like the. I think Porter's character is established right from the start.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the chief says.
Gentleman or something.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's it. When Patema says, "Oh, gentlemen, don't burst into."
Amity or something.
yeah, I was just like, shut up, Porter. Oh, yeah, he was genius. I think he was easily one of my favourite characters.
Yeah.
Best boy, Porter.
Was Porter like second in command to the chief, to the?
He was a guardian.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
her guardian.
Yeah.
He weren't very good at that.
Yeah, he was really bad at his job because he was like, okay, we've got to go save Patema. Oh shit. She went
But
up
they
to
were
the
stopping
sky.
him.
Down to the sky, sorry.
Just the bit where he met AG for the first time as well. Like that, in contrast to when AG first meets Patema, and it's all very like, ooh, what? And then you get AG and Porter's just like, ah!
Do you think that's because Porter knows, like, Patema doesn't know about the other people, but the adults do,
Yeah.
and so they know that there's an actual problem.
Maybe he was actually just scared of the fence and he's got a phobia of changing.
The barbed
Doors
wire
open.
only affect Porter as well. Patema held the barbed wire for quite some time.
Yeah.
She was fine.
Well, she was
But
wearing gloves.
Porter was wearing gloves, and he was like, "Help, this hurts."
Well, she was probably like clever enough to grab the bits between the spikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Porter was just like.
I don't think she had enough time when she was falling to go, oh, here, and here,
Yeah.
and here. Yeah, that
No,
should
she was
do
just
it.
a bit busy trying to save her life.
Yeah, man,
Maybe
she's got
because she
big
was a
reflexes.
protagonist, she fluked it.
Yeah.
Plot armor too
Yeah.
strong.
So,
The narrative is strong.
Visuals, it looked beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah, I thought the character designs were incredible. Like the again, going back to one of my first points in terms of the contrast
The exploration.
with the everyone underground with these kind of like the exploration suits and everything that looked really kind of rural and interesting, and Patema's clothing, which was just a little bit more fancy but still very kind of like down to earth and not particularly modern, at least to our standards. And then you go up ground and it's just like these posh toff suits and all of this stuff.
Ages changes throughout, like he just loses some of the
Yeah.
performance things.
Well, there was a point where AG, you just saw him sat in a chair, short sleeved white shirt, like ruffled up brown hair. He just looked like Shinji.
What I really loved is like the lack of colour in like all of their uniforms. It was very much grey and pale colours, and it's like you all conform, and there's no fun here.
No fun for you.
Yep.
I like how it just made everything in the beginning seem so small, and then as it just got bigger.
Exactly,
bigger,
everything just got. Every time they added a layer, the world just kind of doubled in
scale.
size. Exactly, yeah. And they, like my favourite visual thing was when they get to the ceiling, as it were. I just loved the entire look of that area, and the fact that it was just because you had like
it was like an
it was
empty city.
it was like slight technological, because you kind of get the post-apocalyptic kind of industrial sort of look of the original area where everything all starts off. But this was just completely like this was just a metal landscape, completely barren, and it was like it's quite terrifying to look at, really, just because if you were there.
Yeah, that's something I've actually I was going to bring up. I was going to write down because that episode of Kino's Journey felt very similar to some of the early scenes of this.
which episode? The Robot Town?
The Robot Town,
Okay.
yeah.
Robot Town.
I actually wanted to. I'm going to look it up somewhere later on. I want to know how many people are actually working on like background design and stuff for the film.
The backgrounds were my favourite thing.
It's just it's not just a case of because they were so bloody good. It's because there was so much variety. It didn't feel like the same sort of person's work each time, because you can't like look at a part of this film and go, yeah, that's Patema Inverted. Just like this film's overall design aesthetic, because everything was so different. There were so many different portions of it. But if that was the work of one person, then they've got an incredible range of talents.
It varied so much, but it was still cohesive with everything.
Yeah.
My two favourite scenes in the movie, visual-wise, were the Gurren Lagann scene, basically, where they were.
Dude, I want to get that clip and
I mean,
then
that's
just put the OST over it.
Yeah, that's my favourite scene in Gurren Lagann, so I feel like that's probably why I like
they were
that
spinning.
so
They were
much.
spinning around as well.
Yeah.
It'd be perfect.
What was the other one?
But the other bit was where they were in the clouds, which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
What about the bit when they're hugging and it's just sunrise? Or
That was
something?
kind of
Hug rise.
Yeah.
Progress.
Sunrise.
I love when you have the first flip.
Yeah, when they first meet and they're just like, ooh.
I was expecting
we're up
like
here,
I was
let's
expecting
dish
like
that
an
back.
Inception style.
I loved when they took Age underground to the invert city. It's like we've already had all of these establishing shots, but now they're completely reversed, and
Yeah.
we've got all of these people that we've already come to recognise as the good guys, or the people about civic freedom, and they're all upside down now.
I mentioned it earlier, but I really, really can't say enough good things about how like the camera angles and stuff are organised. Just in like the scenes where it's just a case of it's very much like really playing on people with a fear of heights, but in a really, really weird way, because I can't imagine just like lying down on the grass looking up at the sky and being scared, having like going, oh god, that's so
Having to
far
hang
down.
on to the grass.
Yeah. But when they basically show the scenes of like Patema in the little hut and she looks over, and it's strange how a shot from AG's perspective looking up at the sky looks completely different somehow to Patema looking down at the sky, when it's still inherently the same thing, because they do sort of, I feel like they're using this method where it's sort of, from Patema's perspective, it was sort of curved and like tunneling downwards, so it actually sort of had the sort of feel of falling, as opposed to where Age it's just like a sky that any of us could see.
Yeah.
It also plays in that morbid curiosity. Like, it looks so beautiful, but if you go into it, you're nicked.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh.
But that's like Mushishi. That's Mushishi
Yeah,
vibes
it
all
is.
over there. Yeah. Visuals good.
So
Mhm.
good.
Except for flashbacks.
Yeah. Overall.
Yeah, right. The one
And
thing
that
that
first
I didn't.
person bit in the
You know the
cabin.
very first scene?
Well, no, there's a Patema has a first person shot, I think, where she's like stumbling towards the door.
Oh, and then she looks over the edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one bit that I was really unimpressed by was that montage of just still frames.
Yeah.
Because it was just so boring, and the fact that it went on for so long, it was like a good 5 minutes.
had to
of
go on
just
for a
still
song.
frames.
Yeah, the pictures themselves were interesting. There was a lot of like detail and stuff to pick out, but each one was up for way too long. It was just like
Yeah.
I
It
still
would've
feel
been
like
fine
I
if
want
it
to go
just
look
had,
at
like,
those pictures individually and find more things.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it would
was
have been nice if there was just a
definitely-
little bit of simple animation to it, like him turning his head and like
Yeah.
smiling at each other.
I
or
think
whatever,
it's just the
that
main
would be
reason
good.
that
I
that's
want to know who was taking the picture.
yeah, it just stands out so much because everything else was so good that when it got to a point of like, all right, let's have a slideshow. It's just like you can do better than this.
Yeah.
We've seen you
Yeah.
do better than this.
Maybe they were just like, oh shit, we've not got much of a budget left because we've spent it on all these amazing.
Yeah.
It's better on the background.
Yeah.
So in terms of actual like animation quality, it was very exceptional overall. Apart from that, and also as I said earlier, I wasn't really a fan of how they animated the scene where Patema's jumping forwards to Eiji when he's about to be shot, because it's just like they were fading through the keyframes and it just looked a bit odd.
Do you think that was just so that you have that contrast of the
Yeah,
Yeah.
I reckon so.
Yeah, it would definitely. They slowed it
worked,
right
it
down
worked.
as they go.
No, the fact that it's not that it was slowed down, it's that they didn't have any in-betweens. Because it was just like really obvious cutting through the keyframes
Yeah.
and it just looked a bit off. I'm sure that was probably intentional, it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah. I don't feel like anything visually in this film was done on accident.
Oh yeah.
I feel like
It's
all
not
done
studio
on
triggers.
purpose. Oh! Oh!
You and I are going to have words. boy.
I did actually really like that first scene because I went into it blind yesterday. I had no idea what I was about to watch. That first scene where you've got Frollo just sort of picking up one of the weights and just letting it go while he's delivering this really creepy montage. We're not the same, you and I. We're different people. It set the world up fairly well.
I think he was
whilst-
talking to Lagos.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
had that
Oh, yeah,
thought right
yeah.
now.
I actually get the feeling, knowing now that he was in the tank, that he was talking to him either as he died or possibly like a few days
so-
after.
Because
I think it. I think
thinking that was like when
Do you really not
now that I think
believe
about
that he
it,
talks to Tank Lagos?
that means Lagos just died shortly before the film starts.
Or does
Yeah.
it mean or he might have just been talking to dead Lagos?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
does
what
he
I'm
He's a
saying.
bit of a nutter.
All we know is
He's
it's
been
been
doing
because
I think there's an
Just in that he
indication
wasn't
that
talking
he is
back, I
he's
guess.
in the tank. So I assume he's been put in that tank to
Yeah.
preserve his
So
body.
either he's being
So
tortured
he's probably,
at the time
But-
of that first scene,
or he's
or
already
it's just
dead.
because Frollo's a loony.
Well,
Yeah.
we know that it has to be at least a few years because of Patema's memory of.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
no,
she's noticeably
And
And
younger.
that was the last
Minimum-
time she saw
minimum
him,
a year.
But
Yeah.
she hasn't got a
I'd
sweet
say
braid yet.
more than
Yeah.
that. She was
similarly,
very little in that scene.
She's a kid. They grow up fast.
any other time
She ate her
we've seen
breakfast,
stuff
unlike AG.
from the perspective of an invert, people have been upside down. So, because Frollo was right way up, are we supposed to assume that somehow Lagos was also right way up and alive, and then he got killed and put in a tank?
I don't think it necessarily has to be from Lagos's perspective.
It was just-
rather
it
than
was
ours,
just
like,
from-
it was just maybe.
like when he was talking to the tank, it was basically just like we are at the tank where he's talking, and it wasn't exactly from Lagos's perspective, but it was
the-
I
like
do want to. I
the
do
thing
want to see
is,
that
if
that
they-
bit again, so I can get a better.
If we had done it from
Lagos.
Lagos's perspective,
fish
showing
Lagos.
if either we saw someone upside down wearing the suit that Lagos was wearing, or we saw it from Lagos's perspective where Frollo was upside down, that would have given away the reveal that Patema was upside down,
Yeah.
except
like
she
you
actually
can
wasn't.
Not like
Yeah.
from the box art.
Yeah.
So it would, well, yeah. So it would have. I mean,
It would say
as far as
the
the-
impacts.
yeah, exactly. It would have revealed too much right at the start. I
they
think,
seem
if
to
they'd
really
done that.
like go out of their way to make it so that when they first encountered each other, like it was a big deal that they were like going two different
I
directions.
don't feel like it was a big deal for me because I'd seen the box art and I know it was about upside down people. So.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that when everything was going to crap right at the beginning and the buildings were floating up, that was subbed as well. Like, I know that they were probably going, oh crap, stuff's flying away,
Yeah.
but I kind of...
One thing that I noticed is that some of the music in the beginning of the film sounded like music from Pingu. It sounded like it was being played on icicles. that was the only thing I picked up about the OST. I was like, that sounded like.
And that's why I want the OST.
That's why I want the
Yeah.
OST.
There was a lot of very, very different stuff in there. It definitely had a great variety to it, and it was used remarkably well. I mean, we already mentioned earlier, like the hilarity of the scene where it's cutting out. But I think on the sound design front, one of the most impressive scenes for me was when she first found Batman in the tunnel, and it's basically like just kind of these low sort of echoey sound effects, and then sort of the music just kind of erupts as he's there, and it just sounded so incredible, and definitely would have been awesome.
Cheated
if I'd
off as
seen
soon
this
as he
in
got
or
close to
something.
he got close to the edge.
Yeah.
Where he would have fallen. Yeah.
Right, we should move on to final
Should we very
thoughts.
quickly jump into final
Um,
thoughts and wrap up now?
So, where should we start?
Andy, and go this way. Let's do that.
Have you watched Anime Club before?
You start the other end.
I'd give it a score out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I thought it was excellent. I will watch it again, definitely, because it was a really quality film. I reckon people would enjoy it, regardless of their position on anime. And, yeah, best character, Patema. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Ew.
I think you're biased towards Patema.
Yeah, Pat.
She's perfect.
I'll be really brief on this. I really like this film, and I don't know what I was expecting from it. I don't know if I was expecting to love it or hate it, but I ended up really enjoying it and getting quite a lot out of it. Even though I thought at first it was going to be like really boring and drag a little bit, but it's great, it's fine. I definitely want to watch it again to see if there's anything else I can get out of it from a second watch, like the first scene, and see if that has any more sense with the context that I have now. But I'd give it a 9 out of 10 as well.
Boom. So as mentioned earlier, I was really excited to see what they did with this specific idea, because it's something that I had mulled over before and thought would be really cool. I thought they handled it exceptionally well. I mean, finding a way to justify that is tricky, and I think they pulled it off masterfully. The way the film sort of flowed and progressed was great. It just starts off slow, introduces you to what you need to know, and then it proper like hits the fan and goes crazy towards the end, and it was just such a fun ride, really entertaining. Really strong 8 out of 10.
Special camera rating 10 out of 10.
Yeah, Patema Inverted is such a good film. I would recommend it to anyone, regardless whether they're a fan of anime or not. This is definitely going to be one of those films that I'm going to label as something to show to my dad.
Yep.
Because he's not
Special Cam's dad rating.
Special Cam's dad out of 10. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The storyline is so interesting and so good, and it really kind of gets you thinking about perspective as well, and kind of how your perspective changes the world, but not in a sense of, because obviously you have a lot of films that do that, oh, you know, good and evil's only from your perspective, but this physically does it, like it forces you to change your perspective based on where you are in the world and which way around you're standing. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to get hold of it as soon as I can and watch it again. Dealer's Room straight away right now. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Oh, but it's inverted, it's a 9! I'm funny.
Well, really, that's a 9 out of 1.
9 out of 1.
9 out of 1.
900%.
Again, I really enjoyed it, like I said at the start, and I like both aspects of seeing both sides of it, and just again how it built up. And generally with anime films, I don't watch them again, but I really want to watch that again now, knowing how it ended. Just being able to see it through and just trying to piece it together a bit better. Just hopefully.
I will say.
Imagine if they had a first person.
I will say, watching it in a room with lots of other people was a really good experience as well.
definitely.
Just for those specific moments where we were all laughing. Yeah, and everyone was just like, just that one bit where everyone was just like, way!
And I'm gonna give it an 8.
That's a 43 out of 50.
That's a maths out of
never-
50.
yeah.
We've never had a 50 before.
Yep.
It's because you normally do this on live stream, and having 5 people on the live stream would be
Doesn't
chaos.
work. It'd ruin our layout.
It would,
Okay.
yeah.
So anyone in the room who is interested in seeing what we do again, we do this fortnightly on youtube.com/OKKO Anime Club.
It's in your event schedule.
It's in your event schedule, the link to it. If you'd like to join us for our next one, it's going to be on Terra for Mars on 2 weeks.
It's
2
2
weeks,
weeks.
from now. I
2
forget the
weeks
date,
to
20
yesterday,
something.
so.
Yeah. If you want to watch it, it's on Crunchyroll. You can watch it for free.
We choose all our anime from the UK UK Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, you can watch everything free streaming sites. We use YouTube once. We use Crunchyroll. We may be moving on to Vista soon.
Yeah, and Netflix and that kind of
Yeah, but yeah, and we will try to use free sources as much as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you wanted to go back and check out and just listen to anything else that we're doing whilst you're at work or whatever, we've done a lot of shows in the past, good stuff.
This is
Kuroko,
episode
stuff like that.
25.
Episode 25, this is, yeah. And we did our first episode a year ago today. And
Thank you all so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
for
It's been
coming.
really This was really nice. I really enjoyed this.
If
Best
anyone wants
panel.
any Haribo, please take some.
Yeah, yeah.